Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is CMG TALK This is Catherine Gallagher. I'm going to talk about what we do when we self-sabotage. Now, if you've been listening to the episodes that I've been dropping along the way, and I've talked about our internal self-talk, that inner voice that the majority of us recognise we have, and I talk about it being our own best champion. And people often say to me, I don't know if my internal voice, that voice that I hear myself when I'm probably the least confident or feeling the most annoyed or upset or where I'm questioning things and doubting things, I don't know whether or not it's actually my own best champion. In fact, the majority of times when we're self-sabotaging, it's our limiting self-beliefs that are coming into the forefront of our thinking, isn't it? What was I thinking? Imposter syndrome. I'm going to be caught out. People are going to find out that I'm not as good as I thought. I talk the talk, but can I really walk the walk? Good things, they don't really happen to me. We act as if they shouldn't. We act as if they're not going to stay with us. And we do the self-sabotaging behaviours. The ones we're familiar with, the ones that we know, the ones that we have constantly directed our brain to pay attention to. So that's what our brain naturally defaults to, because that's what we constantly reinforce. Is this sounding familiar? Self-sabotaging behaviour. Constantly, in our mind, we're looking for the reasons we give ourselves. Right, see, I told you. There it goes. That backs up my thinking. I thought so. We look for the things that people do, the things that people say, what we see to support our self-sabotaging behaviours and our limiting beliefs. We get overcome and overwhelmed by our fears. The fear and the overriding fear, if we're honest and ask ourselves, why am I self-sabotaging? What is it that makes me self-sabotage right now? Why am I ruining a good thing? If we're really honest about it, the fear, the underlying fear, is what? Are you doubting that you deserve, that you're good enough? Are you doubting you can follow through on something, you can really deliver? What is it? Are you fearing rejection? Failure? What is it that the fear's about? It's not until we confront and face up to that fear and we say, oh no, fear. Regardless of what I'm fearing, is it worthwhile following through? Because the not doing, the not following through, the not putting my all and giving my all. You see, for me, the worst is regret. It's not fear of doing. It's regret of not trying. It's regret of looking back and saying if only. The what ifs and the maybes and perhaps. When it comes to opportunities and reaching our full potential, not taking those opportunities Now, if we make a conscious decision and choice not to, because we've weighed up the reasoning of it, that's different. We can look back and say, at that time, I made the best decision and the best choice. And we've made a conscious decision and choice not to look back because we're moving forward. It wasn't the right time. It wasn't the right person. We met in the wrong place, the wrong time. It wasn't the right opportunity. I wasn't ready for this. Are we then making a commitment to ourselves to learn, to grow, to continue to pursue, to become the best version, to be ready for further and future opportunities, to be open to possibilities? That's another question. Self-sabotaging is what we do to protect ourselves for the fear of all these things. Being caught out, not being good enough, not succeeding, being judged, misunderstood. We give a lot of our personal power away from ourselves to others when we self-sabotage. Does that make sense when I say that? When we stop, hit a pause button, go within ourselves and say, I recognise my worth, my value. I know my needs and my wants. I know what's good for me. If you recognise who you are because you've been doing the work on yourself, you don't want to sabotage. Instead, you want to open up not just what you want, but you want to open up what's good for you, the needs. Because sometimes what we want isn't actually what's good for us. Often life presents to us not what we want, but what we actually need. Sometimes we get something and we think it's what we want, but then we see that it's been clothed in falsehoods. It's not really good for us. It's not healthy. It's not what we expected. It's not all that it seemed to be. Sometimes people tell me that they find themselves sabotaging a situation. It's better to sabotage, they say, than to actually call quits on something. They don't want to lose face. They don't want to be the one that ends it, but they'll sabotage so that another ends it, or an organisation ends it, or people around them ends it, or a community gives them an out, society gives them an out. They don't want to be backed into a corner, or they don't want to lose face. Self-sabotaging. Is it better to be the one that takes and makes the choice, takes control, be the one that actually makes the decision? Sometimes people say, well, I don't know. Depends on the circumstances. Self-sabotaging. If you get into a habit of constantly self-sabotaging, especially when it's something that's actually good, but we don't really believe we are worth, we deserve happiness, fulfillment, to reach our potential. We don't respect ourselves enough, value ourselves enough. Is that not problematic? Is that not diminishing ourselves, underestimating ourselves, devaluing who we really are? Self-sabotaging can be very detrimental. Learning to stop, to breathe, to process, to make sense of, to ask yourself, Is this good for me? Is this healthy for me? Is this something I need to trust in the process? Is this something I need? As well as something that I want. Perhaps others see something about me that allows me to do this. They see my potential before I do. Maybe I need to trust in the process. Maybe I've done growth and changed, and maybe I need to forgive things that I've done in the past. And maybe I don't need to sabotage the good that's come my way. We grow, we learn, and we evolve. Forgiveness is something that we can give, but it's also something we need to be able to receive. Understanding when we're self-sabotaging, especially when we're doing something to ourselves about something that's good, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a career opportunity, whether it's a life-changing circumstance, and we start doing these patterns of behaviour. Understanding how to go with it's different, it's uncomfortable, but doing it anyway and experiencing the growth and the change and seeing it through. Because through that and coming through that, we grow, we learn, we develop, and there can be joy and happiness and purpose and potential, excitement, and there can be lots of wonderful experiences too. If you learn to sit with those uncomfortable feelings and understand emotions, all emotions are part of being human. This will pass. When I'm uncomfortable and I'm self-sabotaging, sometimes I need to breathe, take a breath, step back, recognise what I'm doing, and ask myself, am I self-sabotaging something that's healthy and good for me? And maybe I need to stop, pause, and allow myself to enjoy the ride. Go with it. Experience something that's amazing and it's good for me, providing it's healthy. There are people that will support you through that. Family, friends, of course, professional support as well. You can do coaching work. You can also use a reflective diary tool to learn to understand your thoughts and feelings and process through. You can do exercises, breathing and mindfulness techniques. There's lots of different tools to help you unpack, process, move through and grow through and unpack reasonings of self-sabotaging. Understanding is important. Learning and growing is important, and understanding when you're repeating the same patterns of behaviour. Ask yourself, what's the triggers? How can I learn from them? And when do I recognise so that I can prevent and move forward and grow? Do the work. Experience life in all of its ups and downs, but understand that when we self-sabotage, it's ourself that impacts on negatively. And processing through healthily our emotions, to be able to move through that phase, because it is a phase, because it's how we're processing our emotions and our feelings. And we can connect the dots and we can reframe how we're seeing it to see it in a different, better way for ourselves. And that's the skill and the tools that we can learn. And if you want to do more work with that, why not join me in some of my trainings? and learn about rewiring your brain and learning how you don't have to self-sabotage. Thanks for listening. Until next time. Unhelpful thinking. That's what self-sabotaging can be. And that's what we call it. Take good care. This is Catherine Gallagher, and this is CMG Talk, and I am your host. Enjoy your experiences in life.